Make sure this microphone's working. Give me a thumbs up if you guys can hear me. Anybody at all? Who can hear me? Give me a thumbs up. Is my audio not working at all? Okay, Melissa says she hears me. Kathy says she doesn't hear me. Okay, there we go. All right. Awesome, guys. So let's go ahead and get started here. All right, thank you, guys. A little bit delayed there, but thank you. What's behind here? So, very quiet. Let's try that. All right. First and foremost, we are still under an SPC marginal risk for severe weather today that extends roughly the same areas from about Grand Rapids over to Lansing, over to Detroit, and areas south to the border of Ohio and Indiana. There's one major difference that I'm sure a lot of you are going to breathe a sigh of relief for, and that is the threats. There is no tornado threat from the SPC in Michigan anymore. That has all shifted to our south in Indiana and Ohio. Now, we are still a little bit concerned more so towards the later part of the afternoon here because some models do show some recovery taking place. Watch that closely. But those storms, if they do form, would pose more of a hail risk, first of all, and then a wind risk as well as a secondary threat. Again, I'm not going to completely rule out a tornado happening here. I just think it's more likely to the south, given all the latest model trends and stuff like that, which we'll go ahead and jump in here into the models right here. Well, first and foremost, this is the HRRR model. And we do have showers and storms off to our south right now and also working through the state. I actually have a secondary screen over here you guys cannot see. I'm watching that radar closely here. It's just about to brush the southwestern tip of the state here in the next couple of minutes. We'll probably go jump into that as soon as we're done with the overview here. Overall, your HRRR model is showing a line of storms working through the region here. We're seeing it on radar already. The model has a pretty good handle on it, pushing through the region, and then we have a break this afternoon, south of 94. North of 94, though, you could be in some rain there. And then as the rain moves north, some redevelopment happens right across the southern part of Michigan here, in particular from roughly Detroit back to the Coldwater area on this model. If that is the case, those storms could be severe. Wind and hail will be your primary threats, but that is also why that marginal risk is in place. Go ahead and zoom in so you guys can see this a little bit better. Again, your bigger risk is going to be down here in Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio. Looking pretty good down there today for some tornadic activity, but up here in Michigan, we look to stay pretty much relatively calm in terms of what we're expecting to the south. But still, these storms that do fire, if they fire up, will be more than likely a chance at becoming severe with hail primarily as a threat, but also wind as a threat as well. And then this is one model. I'll go ahead and show you the instability here as well. Zoom back out here really quickly and hop on over to the instability, which is what we're going to be looking for throughout the day today, because as this line pushes through currently, behind this line, the atmosphere conditions are in question. So we're watching that close. We'll keep an eye on that through the day, but this is your surface space instability model here. We're seeing it push all the way up into the 94 corridor there, a good amount of it too, which would support the risk for severe hail and severe wind. Although the wind shear with this does not look to be as promising as it was yesterday, but there is still enough spin there that I would be concerned for a brief tornado threat. But again, the SPC seems to think that's more so a south risk. But again, we're just kind of seeing these on the models with good spin. Got some good cape there, good instability. We could see something try to spin there, but I don't think the risk up here is as high as it is down south. The latest NAM3 model is actually loading up right now. I have not looked at this. But this model right now does not appear to have a good handle on the situation. Like, we have a huge squall line back here, and this model doesn't have it. So I'd be quick to write this model off. We'll look at it just for fun here. This model does show these showers and storms developing right along the Michigan border there with Indiana-Michigan border. It also shows some development there in southern Michigan around that 4, 5, 6 p.m. time frame tonight. So this model does have that redevelopment here around the same areas. Now, as far as instability goes, we're going to look at that really quickly here. And it does show similar to the other model here, where we have that bulk or that bulge of instability pushing up just to the north of 94 there. So again, the secondary threat here is definitely in play. We are watching the first round as it pushes into the state right now, which I can actually show you guys this. If I stop my screen, oh no, full screen me. Hello guys. Go ahead and pull this back up to Radar Omega and share. So you're currently looking at your current radar here. We have a bulk of rain here in southwest Michigan, but this particular line here is pushing up into the southwest Michigan area ever so slowly. It's about to cross over the border here about next probably 10-15 minutes. So we'll be watching that really closely. It has produced some severe thunderstorm warnings off in Indiana and Illinois. Currently it's not warned, but it does bear watching here, as that is our first threat arriving pretty much right on time. 10 to 2 p.m. is what we said. It's 10:03 here, and we're just seeing this start to push up into the state here. So we'll keep an eye on that. I'll be here watching. And with that being said, that's all I got for you guys. Definitely pay attention for round 2. Again, it's going to be after 4 p.m. But otherwise, South Michigan in particular, I'm going to say probably along the I-94 corridor, needs to be on alert for this line, mainly for a wind and hail threat. This is actually, there's a special weather statement out in IWX here. And this is going to be for half-inch hail and winds in excess of 30 miles per hour. So not severe, but it does bear watching as it is pushing up into the state very slowly. So we'll be watching that here. I have radars pulled up here. Continue to watch the threat. Overall, your SPC risk does still include the majority of the region that we talked about yesterday, and that is going to be for a marginal risk for mainly hail and wind, but also would not rule out the possibility of a brief, weak tornado. Hop over to the comment section here for any questions. Do y'all think it's going to reach NN? What is NN? Tell me again what NN is. Any questions, guys? Flint is not currently in this threat. Northern Michigan, no. No, just some general thunder where you see this lighter green up here by Clare, Big Rapids, Mount Pleasant. This lighter green up here is going to be your general thunderstorm risk. The dark green is the area we're concerned about for severe hail and wind and maybe a brief tornado, but that threat is quite low. Montcalm County is not in this threat. SCP is what we call supercell composite. Basically, the models take wind shear and instability, and they overlap it, and it spits out a color. So the brighter the color, the more chance we have of some severe weather, basically. That's the simple way to put it. How bad will the storms get in Detroit? Definitely could have a chance for some severe weather. Again, this looks to be more of an isolated threat. I'm not expecting a huge squall line to push through, so it's going to be more of an isolated. Not everybody's going to see this severe weather threat, but those who do may get some good wind gusts, hail, etc. But it's not going to be a widespread thing. Don't need to do, no, you'll be fine, Bree. You'll be fine. Watching that southwest portion of the state closely. When I look over here, I'm looking at the other radar I have pulled up here, so just keep an eye on things. Howell is just on the tip of that threat. Looks like they tried to trim that back. Yesterday you were in the threat, and today it looks like you're going to be right on that borderline of that threat there, just up there by 96. Yeah, you're right on that line up here between Lansing and Pontiac there. Be alert for sure. Just keep in mind we could have some severe weather in the area today. In the Colon area, we'll have to rain and thunder. Let's go ahead and take radar back, because we actually do have that round one we're kind of watching now, so might as well just kind of keep an eye on that. There we go. So most area of concern with this would just be some wind and hail. Cass County, Branch County, St. Joseph counties initially would be more so concerning. The wind with this does not look to be that big, although you can see, if you look closely here, there is this little gust front within this line here. There could be some gusty winds there. It doesn't look like it'd be anything too severe at this point. Definitely could have some wind and hail with this, though. Yeah, there's your hail VIL product, which is going to be a tracker for hail. So it does show a little bit of hail falling within these storms. This one down here might be a little bit more so, for sure. So the first round is right here on your screen live, pushing into the southwest part of the state. Again, not really too overly concerned with round one here. Again, we could see some severe hail or wind out of this. The more so concerning threat for us would be after 4 p.m. today. And that goes for the entire risk area south of 96. Would not be shocked if this actually does go severe warned, especially further south in Indiana. That gust front looks pretty mature on GR2 from my angle over here. Which you can see it on this one too. It's just more so showing up on GR2. But that's going to push up into the state here next half hour or so. But the lead part of this is basically just sitting south of Berrien County right now. No wind currently in Colon. Yeah, you're over here. You're just going to be getting some rain and some lightning right now. This is going to push your way though. So next hour or so, I'd be alert for this. After 4 p.m. for second round, Carlo, and the first round is currently occurring now. Although nothing is severe at this point. It's currently south of the state, but it is pushing up into the state currently. So. Brittany, overnight tonight shouldn't be too big of a deal. The storm system will be moving out of the state by 10, 11 o'clock. So overnight tonight, you guys will be fine. It's just going to be a 4 to 10 p.m. ish time frame. Flushing is not in this threat. Yeah, currently in Michigan, we have a pretty wide area of rain from basically all the way up into Grand Rapids, all the way over to much of the Detroit area. Looking like it's raining. It's raining at my house too over here in Southeast. So, in fact, you may be able to hear the trucks going by. I don't know if you guys can hear that background noise or not. Morning, Drew. Let's go ahead and take radar off for a second. Let's go ahead and bring up the SPC outlook on this map here, which I can go ahead and give you guys a better idea of places. There we go. So your marginal risk cuts off just north of Detroit here. Warren is not included. Sterling Heights not included. Waterford Township is not included. Handy Township's right on the edge there. Looking at Grand Blanc and Flint, you guys are outside that threat. Lansing proper is split. Downtown Lansing is just outside that threat. But you guys are close enough to this green line here that would definitely warrant you guys pay attention. But the further north you go towards Flint, Owasso, Ithaca, Crystal, Greenville, you guys shouldn't have to worry about too much in the way of severe weather. And that does reflect the latest models as well. Somebody asking for Fenton. Fenton's somewhere over here right now. I think it's further up here, actually. Where is Fenton? There it is. Yeah, you're outside that threat. So what I have overlaid here on the screen is your SPC outlook. It's kind of hard to tell with the radar here. Can I take this radar off? I don't think I can I? That's a little better. So your dark green area extends all the way from Metro Detroit north over here toward Lansing, over toward Grand Rapids. This area right here is going to be your severe risk in Michigan today. Highest low is going to be to the south here in Indiana, where this yellow slight risk is in place. Not likely to see that shift any further north. And that's also the best corridor, in my opinion, that we're going to see some good tornadic activity off to the south here, particularly between Indianapolis and Fort Wayne. But again, that's out of state, so not too concerned about that. Yeah, this is a current live radar. Yeah, Radar Omega is quite advanced in terms of the features and stuff like that. It's not, once you understand what you're looking at, it's not too bad of a product, but it is complicated. Especially if you have the Alpha subscription. I think there's a lot of options there. You have models, you have satellite, you have forecasts here as well. You got all these settings over here you can go through, but basic is just your radar. And that's really all you need to overlay with your warnings, which is what I have currently. Eric, I wouldn't say it's lower. It's still conditional on that atmosphere recovery later on today. But overall, the only thing that's really changed with the SPC outlook is it shifted the tornado risk to the south. But again, I still think there's a low threat for it in southern Michigan, just because we're seeing the models more so spit some higher stability totals out than what was forecasted overnight. So we might see it adjusted again. But also, there's a good amount of spin in the atmosphere as well. But again, it's a very, very, very low threat. Nothing that we're like overly, concerned about, but definitely something we're watching. Chances of round two actually happening. Almost every single short-term model is currently showing a second round developing. So, excuse me. I'd be willing to hedge a bet on it. But again, we're watching behind this line. Out here, in Illinois, behind this line here is going to be the area of concern for atmosphere recovery. That will continue to push eastward through the day. So we'll have to watch that closely. And also with this line, it may shift that warm frontal area south. Watching that too. But right now, it does appear to be on track. Just a lot of short-term stuff we're going to be watching here over the next couple hours. I'm going to become a storm runner. I track storms so I know when to run away. It's always good to know weather radar, and if you know where you're at in the map and you can read radar, it always helps you, because sometimes when you're under warnings, they're for the entire county, but your area may not get the storm, or sometimes you do. But reading radar is definitely a good tool to use, but also that's why we're here for. That's what we're here for as well. We watch radar. We'll let you know if you guys need to take shelter, stuff like that. So. Okay, nothing happening in the state right now, just some rain, some thunderstorms. The bulk of this is going to be down to the south here. But again, this is pushing to the north, and it looks like it's actually turning more easterly now. We'll have to kind of watch that too. But this was moving a little bit further north. Now it's moving so far to about the east down here. So this may brush the very southern portion of the state. Wait and see. We'll be here tracking it, though. Yeah, Drew, these storms currently actually have some good CG activity, and I would expect it to be the same thing later on. We do have a good surgence back of instability. So definitely keep an eye on that for sure. For those of you who are just joining, we'll go ahead and hop on the model here again to show you guys what we're kind of expecting later on. So this is the HRRR model. Currently has a pretty good handle on things as of 9 a.m. Or sorry, 10 a.m. This is 9 a.m. Sorry. Go back here to the 12Z. Let's move this forward to the... No, that's too far. Let's go to the 8 p.m. Let's go back to 7 p.m. There we go. This is what we're watching later on today. We have these little pop-up showers here in Lansing, Kalamazoo area. That's what we're kind of watching in terms of our overall severe threat with this. Not overly too concerned with it, but it does bear watching here, as these storms are going to be in a good environment for wind and hail. And again, wouldn't rule out the tornado threat at this point, but the SPC did shift that risk to the south. But still think there's a small chance of that happening. All right. Yes, we do have chasers chasing for both MSC and GLSCN. However, I'm not sure it'll be live over there on the other page. It depends on how the threat evolves here in Michigan. But you know, we have Chandler and Alex going to be deploying after 6 tonight if there's anything in the area. I know Ben is probably heading out. I know Drew is thinking about heading south as well. We have Robert, new CPM member, Robert Fari. He's heading to Fort Wayne later on today. So we'll have chasers out in the area. So we'll be covering this. I need to remember not to slide out of this camera because I keep sliding this way. I'm out of view for you guys. Almost directly south of Battle Creek. Just some heavy rain for you guys right now, although this is probably going to scoot to your south, if not brush Battle Creek. It was more so north moving a few minutes ago. Now it looks like it's turned more easterly. So we'll kind of have to watch that close. It may try to skirt up into Michigan, but right now it's more so on an easterly track than what it was. So what do on-the-ground chasers do? Basically, they're just out there storm spotting in terms of tornadoes and stuff like that. They also get good pictures of the storms, got a good idea of what the storm is actually doing. Because radar here, for example, from the IWX radar to these storms, they're currently 4,000 feet. The radar beam is currently shooting 4,000 feet above the surface. So below that 4,000 feet point, we have no idea what's happening with these storms. We have a good idea. We have good radar here, but that beam is shooting upwards. It's not a straight beam. It's shooting upwards because of the way the Earth is curved. Overall, we just can't get a good picture of what's happening on the ground. So storm chasers have a good idea of what's actually happening on the ground, whether it's hail, wind, tornado, that sometimes the radar can't see. But also for us here at MSC, they do stream live when they are chasing. So we have continual feeds. And we also have a lot of behind-the-scenes equipment and software that we use to communicate. So we know what each storm that these chasers are on, what they're doing at each point in time. So we are fully informed, and we educate you guys on what's happening according to ground truth. I got you, Hadley. Got you. Coldwater is just over here, right there, just south of Battle Creek. And you guys are just getting some good thunderstorms right now. But again, these storms are pushing east-northeast. Still unsure if they're going to push all the way up into Michigan. They were looking like they're going to do that, and now they've turned more so easterly. Been saying this since yesterday. We'll kind of have to watch this closely to see if that does push up into Michigan. Because if it does, it'd be a wind and hail risk with these storms. But right now, it looks to be staying to the south, which is good news. That gust front still looks quite strong in Indiana, so I'm not sure. There's good hail reports down there too from Rensselaer up to Valparaiso, but nothing close to the border though, which is great news. Awesome news. What's up, Rich? Flint is not in the threat today, although you do have a threat for some storms. Nothing is going to be severe up there, or should I say expected to be severe up there. You've seen many weird things happen this year, so Flint is outside the risk, but it is close enough that it may be added. I don't think it's going to happen based on models. Monroe is included in the risk. Go ahead and take the risk area back here since it's staying south. Go ahead and switch this back here really quickly. There we go. Back here to the HRRR model and run this through. We have a new 13Z run out here we can look at. So your line of storms pushing through now. That's pushing off to the east. Behind it, we're going to clear out for the afternoon. And then more additional showers and storms develop right there, right around the 6 to 7 p.m. time frame across southern Michigan. That's your round 2 threat. And that threat will pose mainly a hail and wind risk, but would not rule out the chance of a brief, weak tornado, although that risk is highest off to our south, where you see all of these cells popping up from Illinois all the way into Indiana here. Really good environment down there today, And that would be the environment that warm front came further north. That'd be our environment, but luckily looks to be staying to our south. So that is great news for us. What ingredients are we looking at in terms of storms for producing tonight? There's 4 things we look at: wind shear, lift, instability, and moisture. So we call it SLIM for short. So if we start with our wind shear here, we're going to look at our wind shear. It's not just one level of wind shear. We have wind shear at the low levels, mid levels, and high levels. So looking at the 500 millibar, which is about the mid level, 20,000 feet in the air, that's what we really, the meat and potatoes really of forecasting. So we have a really good increase here in yellow and reds of wind shear that comes together. So there's our check, there's our shear, right? It increases through the afternoon, but as we can see here, it's highest over Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, which is why that risk is further south right now. So we have shear. Yellows are still decent enough to produce here in Michigan. What about lift? So we have lift in the form of 2 things right now. We have a warm front, a low pressure, a cold front, and an outflow boundary. But the system itself does provide enough lift to get updrafts going upwards, and that's your source of lift, although that is also going to be highest to the south because that's where we have an overlap with the warm front, but also potential outflow boundaries from this morning's storms, which outflow is basically just cold wind coming out of the thunderstorm. It can act as a cold front, et cetera, et cetera. So there's check 2. Looking at the instability, we looked at that before. We do have sufficient amounts of that, although this model hasn't gone to the south, but the latest HRRR does show it up into the portions of southern Michigan. There's number 4. We do have that right there. There's checklist number 3. Then last thing is moisture. Look at our surface dew points. We see it highlighted there in darker greens and blues. We do have a good surge of moisture in the area today. So those are your 4 ingredients we look for, storms in particular, severe storms. So we have a good overlap of it all. But there's much more that goes into forecasting than just those 4 things. But that's the basics. Thank you guys for my TED Talk. Probably going to hop off here fairly soon here. Actually, yeah, we're probably going to hop off here, although that storm we were watching in Indiana actually just went severe warning. Surprised that took them so long to do that. That's going to be for wind too. So that's to our south in that line we were watching just a little bit ago before we switched screens. That's now severe in Indiana. Luckily, staying to our south, that could have been us, honestly. There's your warning right there in the yellow box. So off to our south, luckily, and that's moving pretty much due east. But it's just missing our state here. The top of that line is just south of the state line, so which is great news. Great question, Hadley. So these 4 ingredients looked a lot better back on the 27th. We had that tornado threat in Michigan. More so advanced talk than that, though we did have a lot more dynamical stuff come together for that setup. Like we had Gulf moisture continually getting pumped into the area. We don't have that with this setup. We had a lot of support at each level of the atmosphere we don't see with this setup. But we do have support at certain levels that do indicate we could have some severe weather. It's just it was more so stacked, if that makes sense, for the last threat we had, so a much higher threat. Or should I say more so concerning for that 27th and 28th system that we had. Yes, Grand Blanc is out of the severe threat. Just gonna be some. My cat is going crazy. Just gonna be some general thunderstorms up there for you. Go ahead and overlay the SPC risk for you so you can see where you're at. So this green area up here, greenish gray area, that's gonna be your general thunder area. Anywhere from north of Detroit up here, north of Lansing, north of Grand Rapids, up by Mount Pleasant, Bay City, Saginaw, Sandusky, Flint included, Muskegon. You guys are all just general thunderstorms today. The severe risk is to the south in this darker green area. It's hard to see with the radar here, but it's right from Detroit, Lansing, Grand Rapids, and areas south to the border of Indiana and Ohio. So this particular area is in that severe threat. This is only one round. Again, we're looking at round 2, potentially after 4 p.m. And we're also watching the atmosphere behind this line back here in Illinois and Missouri, as that's going to push our way through the morning and afternoon. We're watching that as that happens. But again, watching two things: our moisture recovery and also our warm front advancement to the north. Because right now that front, I think I can overlay that, truthfully. Radar Omega has a lot of cool features here. So your surface warm front is right there. If you guys can't see it, I'll highlight it. It's right here. So if that thing stalls right there, our severe threat is over for the day. But that is expected to push northward through the day, which is going to bring that chance of some wind and hail and maybe a brief spin up tornado. But overall, we're watching that front closely to see if that stalls. But also watching the moisture return back here to the south and west in Illinois. If those two things come together, at that point, we'd be more so concerned for wind and hail in the state. That was valid as of 5 a.m. That's actually really old. I'm going to hop on here really quickly and grab a updated look at Mesoanalysis here. Using all the tools today for you guys. You guys are getting the full spectrum of how we forecast. So what time are we meeting next? Probably going to hop off here shortly. I'll look at this really quickly here and then hop off the next 5-10 minutes. I'll be on here all day, Hadley. Sorry. Cold water is in the threat today. You look to be escaping the first threat to the south. Looking at the radar, we do see that line off in Indiana here. It is turned more so to the east. So cold water up here, right about here. You guys should be pretty much safe from this. But if this starts turning more northerly, at that point, I'd be more so concerned. But right now, it's pushing further to the east than it is north. If you guys can look at that closely, you can see the northward movement in the first couple of scans there. Then the past couple of scans, it really tried to turn back to the east, so it's weird. But looking at mesoanalysis, though, really quickly. So we have a couple things we look at here. This is real-time data we look at for instability, moisture, wind shear, stuff like that. And number one thing that I see with this is we have a warm front here. We can see it actually in these ripples in this, we call it shortwave, really. We see it, the circle over here, Illinois, we see this little bump out here, this line, bump out here, this line, bump out, bump out, bump out. That's your warm front. That's what we call basically a shortwave. You can easily tell that too if you zoom way in to your surface winds, which are actually turned out of the south-southeast here. But if you go further north into Ohio and Indiana, they're more so easterly winds. So that is where your warm front is currently sitting, right here across north-central Indiana and Ohio, and also Illinois as well. And that's where it's at as of 10 a.m., so 30 minutes ago. So just north of Indianapolis, there's your warm front. That's what we're watching today. So sorry for all you who are strung along here on the Forecasting 101. You want to talk about Kansas? Oh, man, we can talk about Kansas. For those who do not know, Kansas had probably one of the best radar signatures I have ever seen for a tornado last night. That was insanity. In fact, I think I have it saved here. I can pull it up if I can find it. I don't want to pull up too long just because people who are not watching may see it and go, "What's going on?" I might hop in here thinking there's a tornado in Michigan, but there's no tornado right now in Michigan. So we'll do it really quickly here if I can find it. I do not have it. Interesting. I thought I did. Oh, okay, there it is. Commerce Township, you guys, I believe, are in the marginal risk, if I remember where that's at correctly. Let me double check that really quick. Okay, you're just on the edge of that risk, so be alert today, for sure. As far as that Kansas storm goes, I haven't really zoomed in look here, so I can pull this up, which I can. So this is not Michigan, this is Kansas, and this is your pretty strong tornado we had yesterday in Kansas. And the hook echo on this was insane, but also that debris, or the tornado itself, caused a reflectivity ball right there in the middle of it. It was insanity. Probably one of the best radar signatures I've ever seen. So with that being said, take a screenshot if you want to, but otherwise I'm going to exit out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Don't want that being on the screen too long. This is not Michigan, that's Kansas. Cold water, you should be good for that first threat. Secondary threat is later on after 4 p.m. though. This map did shift just slightly to the south of the previous one this morning. So overall, this is pretty much unchanged. I'd say probably like a 5-mile shift to the south. No, this outlook is good until tonight, so it does cover both risk areas. More so concerned for the second risk than we are this one at this point, just because looking at radar, we can pull that back up. This line of storms is sitting to the south of the state. Excuse me. So with that being said, though, I do not see a risk with this. If this stays on an easterly track, I think we're going to escape the first round, which is awesome news. But that second round is going to be something we're going to watch throughout the day. Yeah, that's a pretty good gust front down there in Indiana. I have a couple of friends who are actually out there. So curious what they're going to see with that. But overall, definitely a day to watch. And I think I'm going to hop off here if you guys don't have any more questions. So I'll go over everything one more time here. So first and foremost, the round one we were watching is currently just south of the state. Go ahead and put this back on the screen here so you guys can see that. Take the SPC risk off. There we go. There's your current radar, and we're going to go ahead and animate that. It was more so moving northeast, but now it's more so turned to the east. So if anything happens with this coming back up into Michigan, we'll go ahead and probably have back on here just to cover it, just in case something goes a little severe. Otherwise, we're watching round 2 after 4 p.m. today. Models do have a good surge behind this line of instability and also moisture, the two main things we're going to be looking for today. And that warm front is still off to the south in Indiana, so watch that advancement as well. So it's still conditional, but it does look like we're going to be having a secondary threat after 4 for those areas south of 96. If you're south of Grand Rapids, south of Lansing, in Detroit, or south of Detroit, you guys would be in that risk today. And it's for primarily hail and then wind, but also would see a threat for a low threat, should I say, for a brief, weak tornado, because we do have a good amount of spin in the atmosphere. It's just going to be a question of how much instability and moistures are going to be. So again, we'll hop off here for now. SPC does update at 12:30, so if that changes, we'll let you guys know at that 12:30 time point. With that being said, guys, that's all I have for you. We'll be back on here monitoring all day. If anything goes severe or anything changes, we'll go live and we'll let you guys know ASAP. So thanks, guys. I'll see you guys probably later on today. Stay safe, all.